So, as a lot of you probably know, I love music. I got into music at a very early age. My mother was into classic rock, Tom Petty, AC/DC, Def Leppard, these really cool bands. And she had this massive CD and cassette tape collection that she let me dig into and explore with my Walkman and later my Discman. And I grew up on that music. I learned all of the lyrics. I got a guitar and I learned how to play. And that really launched me down my musical journey in life to where I was writing my own music and performing in front of people. And I am very thankful that my mother had those resources available because I love music. It's a big part of my life. But there was a point in my adolescence where my mother took that massive music collection and threw it all away. And that was extremely troubling. And the reason she threw it all away was because of Satan. Satan. In 2004, there was an evangelical video series released entitled something to the effect of They Sold Their Soul for Rock and Roll. And it was about a 10-hour Christian propaganda video about how all of these popular musical artists from Ozzy Osbourne up to like Alanis Morissette and these indie artists and just rappers, everybody, all sold their soul to Satan in order to gain fame and success.
Neil Young sings a song about the true meaning of rock and roll and states, hey, hey, my, rock and roll will never die. There's more to the picture than meets the eye. That's what this rockumentary is about. It's about those parts of the picture that don't meet the eye at first glance, but once they're brought into focus, you start to see the whole picture. And you start to see its very dark, grim picture. As Neil Young continued to sing, rock and roll is out of the blue and into the black. We're about to see about just how black it's actually gotten. Even as Satan deceived the first humans to do their own thing and lied to them, telling them that they could become gods, Satan is using MTV to condition the youth of the world to do their own thing and live as though they were their own gods.
How they knew this was backward masking, if you know what that is, where you play a song backwards and you hear these cryptic, creepy things, which for the most part, like some artists do inject that into their music, but for the most part, it is just our minds filling in gaps. But they use that to justify that, oh, look, if you play the Beatles backwards, it sounds like Turn Me On, Dead Man, so they must be satanic. Or anytime an artist uses an occult symbol, like a pyramid, the all-seeing eye, all of these things, this very like loose conglomeration of things pointed to the fact that all of these bands that I personally loved were satanic. So my mother, being the good evangelical woman that she is, threw the entire collection away. And that was incredibly troubling to me. Didn't really know what to make of that. I watched the videos. I even took it to my youth group and we watched it there as well. To a younger, impressionable mind, I was probably 13 at the time, it kind of seemed creepy. Like, yeah, I believed in a literal Satan at that point, and I was like, oh, he's trying to capture me and infiltrate my mind. But as an adult, getting away from that, that's insane. Absolutely insane. It scares me. Like the whole concept of Christianity scares me at this point. But it's troubling that this type of thought is so prevalent and so willingly accepted by Christians. No part of me believes that any of that music was designed to indoctrinate kids to follow Satan. It seems incredibly reminiscent, looking back at it, of the 1980s satanic panic where everything was satanic and they're having hearings at Congress about music and all that stuff. It's unfortunate that religion has that big of a pull on society where that type of thought can be promoted and decisions are made because of it. And there's no backing in any of it. It's reading 2,000-year-old texts about Satan and Jesus and God and all this stuff that cannot be demonstrated, cannot be proved, and then concocting law and concocting decisions based on that 2,000 years later. When we have science and we have things that clearly do not jive with what's written in the Christian Bible. Yet it leads people, true believers, if you will, to drastically change their life, to get rid of an entire collection of music because of the fear that Satan was using that music to indoctrinate you. How absurd is that? I cannot even wrap my mind around that. I'm not trying to talk trash on my family. It's just that this is what happens when you get indoctrinated into religion like that, when you go so deep. And Midwestern evangelical Christianity is a special type of, I mean, it's essentially a cult is what it is. It really is. It controls your behavior, your intentions, your thoughts, your emotions. Look at the BITE model for cults. I would say most Christianity divisions fall into that somewhat. And it does. It makes you do crazy things. It really does. You get so deep into this belief system that you aren't acting rationally, essentially. Luckily, I am a bad person in the eyes of the church, and I didn't follow that. I still listened to whatever music I wanted to, despite my mother's objections. I got into Blink-182 and Hawthorne Heights and Brand New and some bands that my mother would call ominous, I believe was her word. And I kept listening, and I enjoyed it. And at no point did I think that I needed to worship Satan. I still worshiped Jesus prior to my deconversion. It makes me sympathetic to some of my friends and some kids today that their parents don't let them read Harry Potter because of the witchcraft. It's again coming back to this idea that religion does more harm than it does good. It's really too bad.
And just what are groups like the Spice Girls teaching the children? First, notice that they are teaching the children disobedience to parents and that they will not be told to keep their legs shut, encouraging sexual promiscuity among the little boys and girls.